This is the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Kal Halayim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harachak Wadash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and are worthy of their double honors. Peace and blessing to you, Aki, and pushing out this truth across the four corners during these last sections of time. This lesson is entitled, The Nations Prepare for War, 2025. The Nations Prepare for War. This is ultimately following up on the Iran-Israel conflict, which is taking place over there in the Middle East. Exchanges of strikes, which is ultimately going to lead to all-out nuclear war. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 5, I'll just get it real quick. This is Isaiah 9 and 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. That's right. The second woe is past. The third woe coming quickly. And that woe is talking about the Second World War. All right. And the Third World War is vastly approaching. Woe goes into destruction, and that Third World War will bring complete destruction to Babylon the Great and many parts of the earth. Just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities were hit with fire and brimstone, so shall be America, and it will be nuclear, as it says Isaiah 9 and 5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Going into this nuclear conflict that's escalating over there in the Middle East with these lesser nations like Iran and Israel, which are playing a great role in prophecy. So it says, I just typed in, because when you type it in and put certain phrases in the algorithm, you get different information. So I just typed in, did Israel nuke Iran? Breakdown. And it says, no, Israel did not use nuclear weapons to strike Iran. And it's going to go into a breakdown of it, and Lord willing, I could get into it and filter it in through the scriptures. It says, no, Israel did not use nuclear weapons to strike Iran. The recent attacks involve conventional airstrikes targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and military sites. And this is ultimately according to prophecy. The scriptures say, the least of the flock shall draw them out. So these different nations, like Iran, Israel, the least of the flock, they're going to draw out these greater nations such as Russia and America. Because Israel is backed by America and Iran is backed by Russia. Russia's been supplying Iran with weapons for some time now. Israel has been backed by America for some time now. And we know that Iran and Israel, their conflict is going to draw in greater nations like America and Russia to back them up, according to Ezekiel the 38th chapter. So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, verse 20. It says, therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he had taken against Edom and his purposes, that he had proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And that's what you ultimately see going on. Because the Lord is mustering the host of the battle for that great showdown in the valley of Yehoshaphat, which the valley of Yehoshaphat goes into Mountain of Truth, Valley of Decision, and Armageddon, right? Over there in the Middle East, near Saudi Arabia. The Lord is ultimately going to take these nations and their militaries down without a fight, like it says in 2 Ezra, the 13th chapter. All right, he shall not lift up any sword or instrument of war. So it says, Isaiah 13 and 4. I start at 1. It says, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon a high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. And that banner is this truth, this ministry, this wisdom, knowledge, understanding. But a part of that banner is us declaring war. All right? We declare war. Jeremiah 28 and 8 says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old have prophesied against many countries and great kingdoms of wars, evils, and pestilences. This is Jeremiah 28 and 8, and it reads, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries. Is not America a great country? Russia, Iran, Israel, we're prophesying against these countries, telling them of war, telling them of evils and pestilences, telling them that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to break them without hand in their militaries, man. And that's exactly how it's playing out on the planet Earth. You have Israel versus Iran, according to prophecy. You got these bigger nations that are going to step into this fight. Russia, America, different nations. And ultimately, you have lesser nations that have nuclear capabilities and nuclear missiles, and they're going to shoot their arrows off, man. All right? Like the scriptures say, put yourselves in array against Babylon. So the Lord is mustering these hosts and instigating these quarrels, all right? And getting everybody in their positions ultimately to be taken down. So that's what's going on. It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms. Is not America a great kingdom on the earth? Russia, China, North Korea, these different nations that hold nuclear capabilities, they have puffed themselves up due to their military might, due to their politics, their government. And the Lord is going to have a great showdown, like it says in Revelation 19. It says, upon his head he shall come back wearing many crowns. Get that? It says, both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence. So that's the banner that we ultimately lift up. War, evil, pestilence. That's the truth. All right? We go into the gates of the nobles, the chief place of concourse. All right? Like the scriptures say, we are made a spectacle. And we go directly at these elites, telling them their fate, on down to the least of them, these heathen nations. Esau, Edom is going into slavery. These heathen nations are going into slavery and going to pay tribute. The Esau, Edom, after 1,000 years, he's going to be exterminated, man, and put out of the earth. Okay? And that's what all these talks of war, like the scriptures say, wars and rumors of wars. That's what all these talks of war are coming from. Okay? Because once that war takes place, what do you happen after war? Peace. Genesis 49 and 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh come. All right, the scriptures say that these militaries of the earth are going to be broken without hands. So it says, Isaiah 13 and 2, lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, and they may go into the gates of the nobles. Verse 3, I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones from mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. And that's going into the holy angels. All right. It says the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustered the hosts of the battle. So it says a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. What are they gathered together for? All right, they gathered together for war. All right. And in that war, they're going to be taken out of power. Like the scriptures say, they're going to go from plowshares to pruning hooks. This is Joel 3, and I start at 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. That's right, man. These earth's militaries, they're being brought forth to that region, Yahweh Shaphat, for that great judgment, where the Lord is going to deal with them. Like it says in 2nd Ezra 13 chapter again. All right. One people shall undertake another city against another, place against another, and one realm against another. Let me get that real quick. This is 2nd Ezra 13 and 31. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. Like it says in Isaiah the 19th chapter, the Lord is going to set the Egyptians versus the Egyptians. All right. But that war on the American streets is going to trickle over. All right. You're going to have a draft here. All right. People are going to be getting drafted up. All these different Jakes that are out here proclaiming that They're the self-leaders of these different gangs, these different blocks, these different streets. You're going to get a chance to go and fight. But here's the thing. You're going to be fighting against Yahweh Bashem Yahushua and the Holy Angel. In this very same chapter, he said, they shall be scared, but durst fight. This is 2nd Ezra 13, and I'll start at 6. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. And that mountain is going into what the world ignorantly calls a UFO, which is a chariot, right? A vehicle of the Lord and the holy angels to go in and out of this realm, to deliver, to destroy, and ultimately the vehicles of our salvation. So it says, but I would have seen the region or place wherein the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they that which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. So all the nations' militaries of the earth, they're going to be gathered together to go against the Lord of hosts and heaven's armies. And they're going to be broken without hand. So whether it's this conflict between Israel and Iran that's going to draw these different nations into the conflict, and it's going to escalate, like you have America saying that they're going to be drawn into this, all right? Nero Trump saying that he's going to ultimately possibly be entering into this quarrel, okay? So here's a breakdown of the situation. It says, here's a breakdown. Israeli strikes. Israel launched a series of attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, including those at Natanz and Esfahan. It says nuclear program concerns. Israel views Iran's nuclear program as a threat to its security and has been actively working to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. But how has Iran been actively developing those weapons? Through Russia, okay? The least of the flock shall draw them out. So these nations that are backed by greater nations, they're going to bring them into this quarrel, because it's going to go from Israel versus Iran to Israel and America versus Iran and Russia. And these nations are going to team up more. And that's what you ultimately see going on with the BRICS nations. You got Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but you got a host of nations that are joining them and assembling themselves against the currency of America, the policies, okay? And guess what? These nations possess nuclear capabilities. And on top of that, if I could add, you have America's allies, France, Great Britain. They're going to turn against America. Like the scriptures say, and I believe it's Revelation 16, they shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. So the Lord is out of this escalation of events. The Lord is going to declare war, man, on these nations. And the word war goes into bringing to confusion. When you go into the word war in the online etymology, it goes into mix up, to bring it to confusion. And that's what the Lord is going to do to these nations. He's going to bring them into confusion. All right. Battle Yahweh Shaphat. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns was thou sawest upon the beast. These shall hate the whore. And that's going into 7 heads and 10 horns, the EU and the NATO, American and European allies. In Daniel the 7th chapter, it says she was more stout than her fellows, roughly paraphrasing, because America puffs its chest above these European nations. Okay, like it says in Revelation, the whore that sitteth upon many waters. I'll read from 15, Salaki. It says, and he saith unto him, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, which is America, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, because America sits upon those different nations and dominates them, and has been for quite some time. But now that theory and that logic from America is in shambles. So these nations are backing out. All right, they're drawing and arraying themselves around about, like the scriptures say, bend the bow, array. That with me, Jeremiah 50 and 14. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. Babylon here is talking about America. It says, all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. So these nations have a particular target as well. But with the Lord using these different nations to draw other nations in, you see who he's ultimately preparing that great destruction for. Babylon the Great, like it says in Revelation the 18th chapter, her sins have reached unto the heavens. So it says, Revelation 17 and 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that's talking about these nations taking down America with their nuclear weapons. And that's what you see them gearing up for. If you got one ICBM, it's going to be used here. Okay? If you got two, it's going to be used here. However many you got, your intentions are going to be ultimately upon this place, man. This great whore, like the scriptures say. But you got the Valley of Yehoshaphat over there in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, where the Lord is drawing these nations in for conflict, all right, to deal with them. Like it says in Revelation 19 and 10, it says, 11, Salaki, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, which is going to Yahushua, backing up 2nd Ezra 13, where it says that mountain that was carved out, that chariot, that's going into a chariot here again. It says, and he that sat upon him was called faithful and true, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. You see? So they're being brought to the ultimate war general. These nations on the earth, they should be brought to the prince of princes and be broken without hands. So these nations are being summoned to an area known as the Valley of Yehoshaphat, where ultimately the Lord is going to plead with them. Like it says in Isaiah 47, he shall take vengeance and I shall not meet thee as a man. So it says his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And that many crowns is going into the dominions of these other nations. All right? So we know that Yahushua, like it says, that white horse, faithful and true, he does judge and make war. And what's all these conflicts escalating to? War. It says there's no evidence or indication that Israel used nuclear weapons in its attacks on Iran. The strikes involved conventional military force. But as we read in Isaiah 95, but this shall be with burning fire. So these conflicts are escalating into that all-out war where that nuclear fire is going to be used. Those ICBMs are going to be used. Vladimir Putin even, a brother that posted an article, Vladimir Putin even said they have ICBMs now that turn things purely to dust, completely to dust. But that's ultimately the spirit of the Lord on these nations. And also the spirit of the Lord is going to be on these nuclear missiles. The scriptures tell us the Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be beaten to powder at his presence. This is 2nd Ezra 16:11. The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence. So these ICBM nuclear missiles that are going to be shot from the ends of the world, they possess the capability to turn things to waste, all right, to dust. But that's ultimately the power of the Lord on this technology. The Lord said he created the smith that bloweth the coal, Robert Oppenheimer. This technology was ultimately created by the Lord, man. These ICBM nuclear missiles. Where did that fire and brimstone come from? The ICBM is a modern day fire and brimstone. Okay? And that's what we ultimately see happening on the planet Earth. Like it says in Revelation, the 12th chapter, around the 7th verse, it says, and there was war in heaven. War goes into mix up to bring it to confusion. All right, a controversy between nations. It says Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, which is this system, 7 heads, 10 horns. Okay, it says, and the dragon fought in his angels, because angels goes into messengers, which is talking about Esau, Edom's militaries. So the Lord of hosts, heaven's armies, is going to go against the earth's militaries. All right, it says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. So with that war, that third war's war, Esau, Edom is going to be taken out of power. The earth's militaries are going to be taken out of power. All right, and the Lord, like it said, and I'll just end off on this one. He should not lift up any sword or instrument of war. This is 2nd Ezra 13:9. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, the earth's militaries, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. So it says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight. You see, they were prepared to fight, didn't get the opportunity because the Lord broke them without hand. The Lord shall threaten, who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence, it says, and burn burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So the result of that, when the smoke clears, is going to be nothing for these nations. Dust and the smell of smoke. Also for America, America is going to be blotted out. Scriptures say the Arabians shall not pitch tent here. All right. Shall be a home for doleful creatures. And that's a result of that nuclear fire. So the nations are preparing for war, Akim, Lord willing. This message was edifying. I'm going to give infinite honors and praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Harachak Wadash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to you, Akim, pushing out this truth across the four corners. Mighty